First Contact and Invasion. Commander Elena Rice stood at the observation deck of Horizon Station, Earth's most distant research outpost orbiting Neptune. The vast emptiness of space stretched before her, stars scattered like diamonds on black velvet. 15 years in deep space had taught her to appreciate the silence, but today that silence felt different, heavier somehow. "Commander, you need to see this." Dr. Amit Sharma's voice broke through her thoughts. The exoplanet specialist's normally calm demeanor had given way to something Elena hadn't seen before: genuine fear. In the station's astronomy lab, holographic displays showed strange readings from the long-range sensors. "We detected them crossing the Kuiper Belt an hour ago," Amit explained, gesturing to a cluster of objects moving in perfect formation. 27 objects, each roughly 3 kilometers in length. "Natural phenomenon?" Elena asked, already knowing the answer. "No natural objects move like this, and they're decelerating." Amit's voice dropped. "They're ships, Commander. We're looking at a fleet. After centuries of searching the stars for other intelligent life, humanity finally had its answer. But not in the way anyone had imagined." "Send the first contact package," Elena ordered. Earth's governments had prepared for this moment decades ago. The carefully crafted message of peace containing mathematical constants, basic scientific principles, and cultural information designed to establish communication with any intelligent species. For 3 days, they watched and waited. The alien fleet continued its approach, maintaining perfect formation, ignoring all transmissions from Earth and its colonies. "They've changed course," reported Lieutenant Carlos Jimenez from the sensor station. "They're heading directly for Mars Colony." Elena frowned. Mars Colony was humanity's second-largest settlement outside Earth, home to nearly 1 million people. "Keep broadcasting the contact package. Add emergency protocols. Make it clear they're approaching a populated area." The response came 12 hours later, not in the form of a message, but in blinding flashes that erupted across the Martian surface. The aliens had opened fire without warning, targeting power facilities, water processing plants, and atmospheric generators. "My God," whispered Carlos as they watched the live feed from Mars orbital cameras. "They're systematically targeting infrastructure." Within hours, emergency channels flooded with distress calls. The Mars Colony governor's final transmission painted a grim picture. "They've landed troops, humanoid but much larger, environmental suits. Our weapons barely slow them down." The transmission ended abruptly. Earth mobilized its defense forces, but humanity had never built for large-scale interplanetary warfare. The United Earth Defense Force consisted mostly of patrol ships designed to handle smugglers and pirates, not an advanced alien invasion fleet. Elena's orders came directly from Earth Command. "Remain at observation post. Record everything. If Horizon Station is discovered, initiate Emergency Protocol 0 and evacuate with all data." For the next 2 weeks, Elena and her crew watched in horror as the alien force methodically moved through the solar system. After Mars, they struck the mining colonies in the asteroid belt, then the research stations around Jupiter. Earth launched everything it had, but the alien ship's defensive capabilities rendered most human weapons ineffective. Then came the breakthrough. Dr. Lena Chen, Horizon's xenobiologist, had been analyzing footage from Mars. "They're methane brothers," she announced to the emergency staff meeting. "Look at their environmental suits, the design, the cooling systems. They're not protecting themselves from Mars' atmosphere because it's too thin. They're protecting themselves because our oxygen is toxic to them." Elena leaned forward. "Can we use that?" "Maybe." Lena pulled up molecular diagrams. "Their technology is incredible, but biology is biology. If we could compromise their environmental systems." The station shuddered violently, alarms blaring. Elena steadied herself against the conference table. "We've been detected," Carlos shouted over the comm. "2 alien vessels changing course, heading directly for us. Initiate Protocol 0. Elena ordered, her voice steady despite the fear tightening her chest. Download all research data to emergency pods. Prepare for immediate evacuation. As her crew scrambled, Alina made one final transmission to Earth, encrypted with the highest security protocols. Dr. Chen's discovery about the aliens' biology, along with all sensor data they'd collected on the invaders' technology. Their ships used some form of gravitational manipulation, she explained in her hasty report. Their weapons seem to be plasma-based, and they're vulnerable to our atmosphere. We might be able to use that. The alien ships were minutes away when Alina boarded the last escape pod. Through the viewport, she watched Horizon Station, her home for 7 years, grow smaller as the pod accelerated away. Then a flash of light, as the station's self-destruct sequence activated, denying the aliens any information it contained. In her pod's small cabin, Alina reviewed the research data they'd salvaged. Something strange stood out in the communication attempts they'd intercepted from the aliens. They consistently referred to humans as bioforms and Earth as resource planet C-3291. They don't see us as people, she realized. They don't even recognize us as intelligent life. That thought chilled her more than anything else. How do you negotiate with an enemy that doesn't even acknowledge your sentience? The pod's computer indicated that its stealth systems were functioning, a technology developed for deep space exploration that might now save her life. Setting course for Jupiter's moon Europa, where a small research base might still be operational, Alina reviewed what they knew about the invaders. The aliens called themselves the Valkyrie, according to intercepted communications they'd partially decoded. They were methodical, technologically advanced, and utterly merciless. But they had made one critical mistake. They had underestimated humanity. By the time Alina's pod reached Europa base 3 weeks later, Earth had fallen. The aliens had established orbital positions and landed massive walker machines in strategic locations across the planet. Billions were dead or in hiding, but something unexpected was happening. Reports filtered in from across the solar system. Scattered resistance, improvised weapons, surprise attacks on alien supply lines. Humanity was adapting. At Europa base, Alina found a ragtag group of scientists and military personnel who had escaped the Jupiter station attacks. Among them was Major Darius Wade, formerly of Earth's Mars Defense Force. They thought we'd surrender after they took Earth, he told Alina as they reviewed her data. Instead, we're fighting back with everything we've got. Guerrilla tactics, repurposed mining equipment, whatever works. Dr. Serena Kaminsky, the base's lead engineer, studied the information about the aliens' environmental suits. This is it, she said, excitement breaking through her exhaustion. This is how we fight back. Within days, they had designed a prototype, a simple device that could release a specifically engineered catalyst that would rapidly break down the filtration systems in the Valkyrie environmental suits. It won't kill them instantly, Serena explained, but it will force them to retreat to their ships if we deploy this on a large enough scale. Alina nodded. We need to get this to every resistance cell we can reach. Major Wade studied the tactical displays showing known Valkyrie positions. We need to do more than that. We need to take the fight to them. And so, as the Valkyrie continued their methodical conquest of humanity's home, a plan began to form among the survivors at Europa base. A desperate gambit that would require every ounce of the ingenuity, courage, and adaptability that had carried humanity to the stars in the first place. The aliens had made their first mistake in assuming humans would be easy to conquer. Their second mistake would be failing to realize the danger until it was too late. Humanity strikes back. 6 months into the invasion, the Valkyrie Supreme Commander Thozarin stood before the holographic display of Earth in his command vessel. What should have been a routine resource acquisition had become something unprecedented in the 5,000 cycles of Valkyrie expansion. A genuine military challenge. Explain this, he demanded of his chief science officer, gesturing to the reports of yet another supply convoy destroyed. The bioforms have adapted more quickly than any species we have encountered, Science Director Mevlak replied carefully. They are using our own technology against us, modified to suit their purposes. Impossible. They are primitive. Their vessels still use chemical propulsion. And yet, Mevlak noted, 17 of our atmospheric processors have been destroyed in the past 30 days. Thozarin turned away in disgust. The Valkyrie expansion fleet had conquered 37 worlds across 7 star systems. Never had they encountered resistance that persisted after primary military assets were neutralized. The bioforms should have accepted their inevitable extinction by now. Double the hunter-killer patrols, he ordered. Find their resistance leaders and eliminate them. Meanwhile, deep within the abandoned mines of South America, Alina Reyes stood before representatives from 12 resistance cells who had risked everything to attend this meeting in person. The catalyst weapon is working, she told them, her voice echoing in the cavernous space. The Valkyrie are retreating from areas where we've deployed it. But we need to do more than just push them back. We need to end this war. Major Wade stepped forward, displaying a holographic image of the massive Valkyrie command ship currently orbiting Earth. Intelligence gathered from captured Valkyrie technology confirms this vessel controls their entire fleet. Their command structure is hierarchical. Take out the leadership, and their forces will be in disarray. How do we get to a ship in orbit? Asked a resistance leader from the Australian cell. Elena nodded to Dr. Kaminsky, who had refined the original catalyst into something far more potent. We've captured and repurposed 3 Valkyrie shuttles. We've studied their navigation systems, their security protocols. We can get a small team aboard their command ship. And once we're there, asked Carlos Jimenez, who had joined Elena's team after escaping Neptune in another pod. We deploy this. Serena held up a small device, an enhanced catalyst bomb that will compromise every environmental system on the ship simultaneously. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. That's genocide, someone finally said. Elena shook her head. We've built in a time delay. Enough for them to evacuate, if they choose to. This isn't about extermination. It's about showing them we're not just bioforms to be eliminated, that we can hurt them badly enough that continuing this war isn't worth the cost. After hours of debate, the plan was approved. A team of 12 would attempt the most daring mission in human history, boarding the enemy's command vessel to deliver an ultimatum backed by the threat of mass casualties. The mission launched 3 weeks later from a hidden facility in the Himalayas. 3 stolen Valkyrie shuttles, their transponders reprogrammed to read as returning patrol craft, ascended toward the massive command ship. Elena led the first shuttle, her heart pounding as they approached the docking bay. Everything depended on the access codes they'd extracted from captured Valkyrie technology. They're scanning us, Carlos reported from the pilot's seat, sweat beading on his forehead, despite the cabin's cool temperature. For 10 agonizing seconds, they waited. Docking permission granted, Carlos finally said, relief evident in his voice. The 3 shuttles landed in different bays, their teams moving quickly through the massive vessel. They had memorized the ship's layout from architectural data extracted from Valkyrie computers. Their destination, the Central Environmental Control System. Elena's team moved through curved corridors, twice having to hide from Valkyrie crew members. The aliens were tall, nearly 3 meters, with 4 arms and smooth gray-green skin. Their breathing apparatus covered the lower portion of their faces, connecting to tanks on their backs. Central control should be through the next section, Serena whispered, consulting her handheld scanner. The door slid open to reveal a vast chamber filled with humming machinery. In the center stood a Valkyrie officer, taller than the others they'd seen, wearing an ornate environmental suit marked with symbols of rank. Supreme Commander Thozarin turned, his 4 eyes widening at the sight of the humans. Impossible, he said, his translation device rendering his words into harsh mechanical English. Elena stepped forward. We've planted a catalyst bomb in your ship's primary environmental system, she said calmly. In 15 minutes, it will activate, breaking down every filter and environmental control on this vessel. Your entire crew will be exposed to oxygen." Thozarin's posture showed no fear, only confusion. "You have accomplished nothing. I will simply have you eliminated and the device removed. The device is already counting down, Kate, to my vital signs. Kill me, and it detonates immediately. And it's not the only one. We've planted similar devices on 20 of your ships." This was a bluff. They had only managed to infiltrate 3 ships, but the Valkyrie commander had no way of knowing that. "What do you want?" Thozarin demanded. "Recognition," Elena replied. "Acknowledgement that we are not bioforms to be exterminated, that we are intelligent beings with the right to exist, and we want you to leave our solar system." Thozarin made a sound that the translator didn't catch, perhaps laughter or scorn. "You expect me to retreat because of this minor sabotage? I expect you to make a practical decision. Your mission was to secure resources, not engage in a prolonged conflict with a species capable of infiltrating your command ship. How much have you already lost trying to conquer us? How much more are you willing to lose?" For a long moment, the Valkyrie commander was silent, his alien features unreadable. Then he touched a control on his wrist, summoning a holographic display showing the current state of the conflict. Elena saw, for the first time, the true extent of humanity's resistance. Across Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies, Valkyrie forces were under constant attack. Supply lines disrupted, communication relays destroyed, atmospheric processors sabotage. "Your species fights differently," Thozarin finally said. "The collective has encountered many civilizations. Most surrender when faced with superior force. Those that resist do so conventionally, with military assets we can target and destroy. Humans don't give up easily," Elena said simply. "We adapt. We improvise. Every one of us becomes a weapon if necessary." Another long silence. "And if we withdraw?" Thozarin asked. "Then you live. We disarm the devices. We establish communication protocols for potential future negotiations, as equals." The Supreme Commander turned away, communicating in his native language with others through his suit's comm system. Elena caught Carlos's eye, seeing her own tension reflected there. Their bluff had to hold for just a few more minutes. Finally, Thozarin turned back. "The Valkyrie Collective does not negotiate with." He stopped himself. "The Collective has not negotiated with other species before. But adaptation is necessary for survival. We will withdraw." Elena maintained her composure despite the surge of elation. "You'll order all forces to retreat beyond the Kuiper Belt immediately." "Yes, and you will provide the deactivation codes for your devices. Once your fleet is moving." "Yes." Within hours, Valkyrie ships across the solar system began breaking orbit. The massive atmospheric processors they had deployed on Earth powered down. Troops returned to their vessels. The invasion that had cost billions of human lives was ending not with a decisive battle, but with a recognition that the cost of victory had become too high. On the command ship's communication deck, Elena transmitted a final message to the retreating Valkyrie fleet. "This is Commander Elena Reyes of Earth. Remember what happened here. Remember that we defended our home against technology far beyond our own. Remember that humans will not submit, will not surrender, will not be conquered. If you return in peace someday, we will meet you as equals. If you return for war," she paused, "well, you know how that ends." 3 months later, Elena stood on the observation deck of the newly reconstructed Horizon Station, watching the stars. Earth was still recovering, its cities rebuilding, its people emerging from hiding. But humanity had survived. And more than survived, they had prevailed against an enemy that should have easily destroyed them. A message from Earth Command appeared on her console, intercepted long-range communications from the retreating Valkyrie fleet to their homeworld. The translation was rough, but the meaning clear. The species designating itself human represents an unprecedented threat level. Unlike other conquered species, humans become more dangerous when threatened. Their biological adaptability is matched by technological improvisation and individual combat initiative that defies normal containment protocols. Recommendation: classify Sol system as prohibited zone. No further contact without full collective authorization. Elena smiled to herself. The Valkyrie had made their worst mistake when they dismissed humans as simple bioforms to be cleared away. They had learned their lesson the hard way, as would any other species that made the same misjudgment in the future. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, not as explorers or diplomats as they had hoped, but as warriors no one had expected. And the stars would remember.